Being from New York, I understood how valuable real estate was because it's always been expensive out there. But I did transition from being a intelligence officer in 2015, and then I began franchising. Rocky Mountain Chocolate Factory was the first brand that I operated. I ended up operating a yogurt store, U-Swirl. I've been coaching real estate agents and real estate professionals, like I said, since 2018, and I love it. You know, I have 4 little sisters.
So is that your coach? Is that what your coaching is around real estate?
That's where it started. So my inspirational coach is not, no, that's business consulting, that's mindset focus, 21 days of gratitude. Transitioning out of the military, I did some franchising, and you know, that was the bread and butter for a while, but real estate's been my passion for a long time. So I'm a licensed agent, and I do invest here in a few markets in Missouri, Colorado, and Virginia.
Yeah, in Kansas City, or St.
Joe. Yeah, St. Joe. You know, I did go.
One of our sponsors is Recon Marketing. Recon is the fastest growing social media marketing agency in Colorado. Recon focuses on becoming an extension of your business while providing social media management, review management, and digital marketing. Recon Marketing, putting you on the radar. Our next sponsor is Atmos Planning. Atmos Planning is changing the way business owners and real estate investors are served by the financial industry. Their website is atmosplanning.com, atmosplanning.com. Our next sponsor is Planet Duct. Planet Duct offers astronomical air duct cleaning with the most powerful vacuum trucks in Colorado. They have taken air duct cleaning to a new intergalactic level that is far more powerful and proactive than anything on the market in El Paso County and southern Colorado. Sheath Underwear. Sheath Underwear has a pouch for the boys. It is everyday underwear for every man. 100% money back on the first pair if you don't like it. Visit sheathunderwear.com and enter the code COSBP20 to get 20% off your order.
The People's Tiny House Festival is the nation's largest gathering of simple living, featuring van conversions, bus conversions, and tiny houses, of course. Catch the event in Loveland, Colorado, July 16th and 17th at the Ranch Events Complex.
Get your tickets at peoplestinyhousefestival.com/tickets.
Welcome back to the COS Business Podcast, the #1 podcast in Colorado Springs. My name is Andrew Hasley, and I am the host of the show. Today, I'm sitting here with Ernest Chamblee, who does what's the speaker thing you said you were doing?
Sure. So it's Speak Inspired.
Speak Inspired. I like that.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
But yeah, and you also you also do real estate stuff, right?
Sure. So after transitioning out of the military, I did some franchising, and you know, that was the bread and butter for a while, but real estate's been my passion for a long time. So I'm a licensed agent, and I do invest here in a few markets in Missouri, Colorado, and Virginia.
Yeah, in Kansas City, or St.
Joe. Yeah, St. Joe. You know, I did go to school in St. Joe. My wife and I, we met in St. Joe. We rekindled in Hawaii, and she was living in Kansas City at the time. So a lot of family roots back there, historic roots, I should say.
And what's funny is, not funny. It probably makes sense. Historic, actually. Like Chamblee is French, and Kansas City was founded by a chateau by a Frenchman.
Maybe that's what drew me there for school. But you know, a lot of my family comes from the East Coast, North Carolina, Georgia area. Yeah, with that Chamblee last name.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, see, I like breaking down the history of things, whether it's etymology or, you know, where we come from, humanology.
Exactly,
I think there's a better word than that, anthropology.
Dude, I used to want to be an anthropologist growing up, way back in the day. Like, what do you want to be when you grow up? Questions being asked. I just wanted to study and dig up historic stuff, but business called. So
yeah, and anthropology, like studying humans, there's different sides. You know, you got psychology, you got anthropology, and what is anthropology? It's the history of humankind, right? Correct.
So a lot of anthropologists will be out there with your archaeologists and geologists and things like that. So in my career as an intelligence officer, I kind of was that all source congregator of information. So that's just kind of something that's carried along with me every profession that I've chosen, kind of.
Okay.
Yeah,
man. So that's cool. And there's so much stuff for us to cover here when it comes to when it comes to business.
Absolutely.
You having those franchises, you having one that was doing well, and then I'll let you tell your story.
Sure. And a lot of different types of business in between. Do you want me to share that about?
Let's talk about it. Yeah.
Sure.
Just the company and all, if you're able to.
Yeah. Thank you. And so a little bit about where I came from and how I got into the business. My dad kind of did some real estate when I was young, you know, always a really good handyman, but being from New York, I understood how valuable real estate was because it's always been expensive out there. But when I went to college, ball was life. I thought I was going to go to the NBA. I thought I was going to be the shortest NBA superstar. You know, I know Muggsy Bogues out there, but I was going to be better. But that didn't pan out because you see my stature. I'm not built for the NBA.
Maybe
God built me for business.
Yeah.
But I did serve in the military because paying for college was something I didn't, want to do to my mom, and she didn't want me to enlist in the military, so I did commission instead as an officer. So I did ROTC to pay for college, and I still wanted to do business. So once I traveled from each destination, I would look at investment properties. So I'd like to say that True Loyalty was founded well before 2017, but that's when I actually incorporated. I had some business experience out of the military, but I did transition from being a intelligence officer in 2015, and then I began franchising.
How long were you doing the intelligence officer?
So 2010 is when I commissioned, and 2015 is when I got out. So almost 5 years.
And what does that entail?
Sure. So as a military intelligence officer, there's a gambit of opportunities for all kinds of officers in each branch, but I was specifically a SIGINT officer, so that's signals intelligence. So radio waves, push to talk, cellular data, things like that. So, a cool story is when I was stationed in Hawaii, I was at NSA CSS Hawaii. The Snowden situation, he wasn't in Hawaii yet, but he was coming to Hawaii. But that actually was going on while I was P3 asset for NSA. So they locked down the base. You couldn't even get into the gym, which was miles away from the building. But
so you were experiencing that firsthand before it even went public, huh?
Yeah, just the ramifications of it, and then obviously I can't speak to what was going on in the building, but it was an intense time to be in that community. But it was really cool. When I deployed, I supported special operations, so we got to do some of the coolest things I've done in my entire life to date, and use some of the coolest technology. That's one of the greatest times of life is serving my country. But being the SIGINT officer or the all-source officer or the human officer, people who work with human assets, that was really cool. Learning all those kinds of different approaches to intelligence collection, right? Because in business intelligence, now there's an industry business intelligence. It didn't used to be the case, but the study of human, and you talked about psychology a little earlier, the study of organizational behavior, of customer behavior, of buyer trends. So things like that, I kind of had a head start getting that military formal training in critical thinking and understanding patterns of life and things like that. So applying a lot of that to what I do has made me a little bit more keen to seeing the product life cycle or the customer life cycle of a business or industry that I'm in. So yeah, being in the military was awesome. And the reason I did do that, like I said, my mother didn't want me to enlist because she did enlist. She was enlisted for 17 years. When I went to college and I did no longer have my basketball scholarship, I did do the ROTC scholarship. I didn't want my mother to pay for it. Like I said, she was enlisted, but I remember going to visit my mom sophomore year of college, and I was doing some ROTC drill and ceremony, and she was just laughing at me. And I was like, what's going on? She was like, you're embarrassing. I will never salute you. And this is one of the proudest moments of my life because she dropped what's called degree in the gold packet and went to OCS and became an officer, and that changed the trajectory of her retirement, how my sisters were able to go to different schools, different opportunities to play in different sports leagues, things like that. So for me, that's a huge a proud moment for myself, but the military was a huge impact on my business career and what I think I formed into today. So for all that to say that as I was getting out of the military, I was seeking some business structure because I understood systems were successful. In the military, everything is systemized, right? And documented. Standard operating procedures are a must.
You can run a business and hit a certain level, but without proper systems, you're never going to grow. And that's the hugest part.
Absolutely. The wheels won't roll if you don't have a bike. And then if you don't have training wheels on the bike, you might never learn how to ride it. So you do have to build an entire system to actually move forward. So that was something I'm really firm on, and getting into franchises was the conservative way for me to do it.
And franchises have systems built in.
Dude, and the thing I learned, and I have a lot of friends in the entrepreneurship group that I'm in and was a part of while I actively operated a lot of these stores, that no franchise is created equal, right? Each system, it's proprietary for a reason. So each organization is going to have their own systems, and some are rock stars, and others, you have to supplement them with your own experiences and, some of your ideas, some of the things I've implemented had gone up to the national level that you can incorporate for all the 230 or 500 franchises, depending who your franchisor is. But yeah, so that's what I ended up doing. I did go with an organization. Rocky Mountain Chocolate Factory was the first brand that I operated. I ended up operating a yogurt store, U-Swirl.
What was when you seen Rocky Mountain? What was the appeal? You're like, this is going to be a winner.
Great question. So let's take it back a little bit. So I did go to Missouri Western. That's where the correct school of business is, and there was a entrepreneurship group found, and that was in 2009. So I was graduating. I actually helped, our school become accredited in the business program. So being a part of that and seeing this entrepreneurship begin, I looked out, like I said, for systems. So reconnecting with my alma mater, I completed a semester-long course where I actually just restudied business. I'd been doing intelligence for almost 5 years. I felt like I wanted to,
a recap.
Exactly. I'm a firm believer in, you have to learn before you earn. So I took an applied entrepreneurship course where that runs you through a gambit of different trainings. And you actually get to study different stores. So now you're looking at profit and loss statements. You're actually studying what the cost of goods does, what does rent, and how does that impact your overall sales, and is there going to be an owner's draw? So these are things you're calculating. So I got to do that while I was still in the military. Now, I worked my tail off, so I'm in Hawaii, working full-time, taking this class at night in St. Joe's, so it's my lunchtime in Hawaii. So it was a real fun exercise on balancing business, and, I got that pretty early in my experiences. So tapping into that organization allowed me to shop for different franchises, and Rocky Mountain Chocolate Factory had an agreement where they would waive certain fees. There's a lot of franchises that waive or discount franchise fees. So I went in where I could get in for the least cost and the least build out. I love the Jersey Mike's concept, but those, you are looking for territories. You're looking for different amounts of stores that you can have. And I didn't think I had enough funds at the time. I wasn't well versed on veteran SBA loans, which I am now. And that's why I've stepped into the coaching space full time, because I don't want anyone, especially veterans, to miss out on the benefits that they have. So I forewent all of that because, I thought I had everything figured out with this group that I was becoming a part of, when there were benefits that, group or not, franchise or not, there's opportunities that veterans especially, can take advantage of. So that's how I got to Rocky Mountain Chocolate Factory, just through research, through that group, through experiences. Some other models that I looked at were Anti-Ans.
Anti-M?
Anti-Ans. So yeah, exactly.
Isn't that Wizard of Oz? Are we in Kansas anymore?
Right. and Anti-Ans, a lot of people call that liquid gold because you can put 3 of those in one mall and have them in different places, and they're just pumping out. You smell Anti-Ans from a store, you're buying.
Okay.
Yeah, the pretzel store. Sure.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
But and your original question is, how did I land on Rocky Mountain Chocolate Factory? So the way I landed on Rocky Mountain Chocolate Factory was when I finished that program I discussed. I was supposed to look at an opportunity for a Chick-fil-A in Southern California, but through time and deterioration of opportunities, that didn't happen. So the Rocky Mountain Chocolate Factory in Northern Virginia was an opportunity that I learned. My biggest lesson in business was, if an opportunity is too good to be true, it might be, and you got to check the numbers a little bit more and understand leases a little bit better. I definitely, that's what pushed me into real estate, because I wanted to be on the opposite side of the table, not just on the transaction, but really understand.
It's those failures, though, that really set you up for the best. The next best thing, I think.
Absolutely. The next best. I just said that. That's a really good way to put it, because you don't know what the next best step is until you take a few wrong ones.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You saying that story and learning leases just reminds me of reading Sam Walton's autobiography, which is the founder of Walmart. He built up this store that was kind of like a precursor to Walmart, but it was owned by JCPenney, I think, or something like that. It may have been even JCPenney. But there was this one franchise in Georgia or something like that was just a terrible franchise. It wasn't doing well. He went in there, he turned it around, made it the most profitable one in the franchise, in the company, and then they just pulled it out from him.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and
then he started Walmart.
Exactly. And that was a catalyst in my business life, because of a very similar situation. Obviously, I'm not Sam Walton, but I know.
You're also you. You're also you.
I am me, but that opportunity was an amazing one for me to learn from. But I definitely bit off more than I could chew, and that's something that, ambition, it costs entrepreneurs, and they say if you're gonna go broke, do it before you're 30. So, mission accomplished.
Nice.
But being able to build yourself out of that, and then learning in business, not everyone's gonna play by the same rules you play by, and you have to always check your integrity. And that's something I'm grateful for my wife for. She always makes sure my moral compass is pointing in the right direction, where I'll make the hard right decision over the easy wrong, regardless of financial blowback or things like that. Because at the end of the day, none of the money goes with us. Who you are as a business person, who you are as in a relationship, that's really what matters. But the franchises that I operated, like I said, was the Rocky Mountain Chocolate Factory and then the Aspen Leaf Frozen Yogurt, which is part of that U-Swirl umbrella, which Rocky Mountain Chocolate Factory owns as well. So franchising is definitely what I built my models on. I took my military experience, used the franchising model of, using systems in business, what profit and loss reports, how often they should go in, what does inventory management look like, how can systems be improved for inventory management. And like you said, in the Sam Walton case, he built up the store. We increased sales 26%, and a lot of the things I implemented, the franchisor implemented. For example, like I'm an Excel document.
Okay.
Like I can get lost in Excel
Nice.
documents. So a lot of that stuff, added to the ordering systems and things like that. So, and like I said, no franchise is created equal. So as I grow my businesses, I know that I want to make sure that I'm technology based. We had a few conversations about technology before we started recording, and you'll see franchises that I look at now. A lot of my business investments now are for startups or a lot of friends or clients interested in buying a franchise. And as I do research with them or research on specific franchises, the ones who are left behind technology, they're going to be lost, and they are lost a lot of times. They're either staying around because there's a lot of heart loyal customers in there, or they have found their sweet spots. But as a brand, franchisers are struggling if they're not using technology, and that's just something that no matter what business I enter, that's the first step, because soon technology is going to be the base.
I was listening to, I don't know what it was, but they were talking about like so much. They were basically saying Hershey's was a technology company. We look at technology like smartphones and all this stuff, but technology is way more than that. Hershey's factory, they built basically like a whole city. Like their factory is a technological feat.
Absolutely.
It's insane. So
They have that base,
and they're Hershey's now. So everyone knows they're as big as Coke.
Exactly.
Probably even owned by Coke. I don't know.
Coke owns everything. Man, yeah. So. That's how I got into the franchising space.
Okay.
And then when the mall that I had taken that leap in Virginia had began to close stores, when your anchor stores like JCPenney, we talked a little bit about that, Sears, Oshkosh B'gosh, that's a huge indicator of the switch in landscape of the mall. And then
they were leaving, is what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So and that's happening. Malls have had a transition, and a lot of them still are, where the retail has to be technology, right? Has to have an advantage outside of just the mall, because what did COVID do? When's the last time you went to a mall? And probably recently.
Way before. Malls were fading before COVID.
Right.
Amazon really did them in.
Absolutely. I always tell my wife that, when all these selfless driverless cars are needing somewhere to be parked, it's going to be malls. You're going to go look at model driverless cars at the mall, and then they'll drive out, so we'll see someday.
No, for sure.
But when the mall started closing wings, very large mall, when the mall started closing wings and mine was next up, there were options. Do I go out and try to earn a little bit more money? And there were opportunities to buy other Rocky Mountain chocolate factories in my location, the Springfield area, but they were fire sales, and there was a reason they were fire sales, because the brand was not keeping up with the times.
What's fire sale?
They were cheap,
Okay.
for assets.
Gotcha.
They were letting them go for assets or maybe inventory. So that's a couple $1,000s for the name of a business that's full operation in a pretty decent mall, but 3 or 4 in your area close. The malls in your area begin to close, and they're converting into more lifestyle centers, so they're not going to have the same kind of.
That's what they got to do too. Like if you think about it, on a side note, like if malls want to stay around, they need to be experience based. They have
exactly.
to.
It has to be able to someone has to be able to get their nails done. Someone has to be able to pick up their snack. Two people need to be able to go look at what product they want to buy, and then everyone can get lunch together. You know what I mean? So like it has to be
maybe
right
even
there.
co-working spaces. I know some malls are thinking about even renting out like residential spaces.
Absolutely. I mean,
inside of them.
you see here locally, there's a high school in one of our malls here.
Okay,
So,
see, I didn't even actually know that. Okay.
so you know, there's all kinds of opportunities to see how these malls can revamp, and I think technology is going to be the leader in that, right? This space is going to supplement your business. It's not going to be your business anymore. And there'll still be some places like that. You can't get away from going to a car dealership. And I know Carvana and some of those things are there, but that model is just hard to change. You can want to kick the tires on it. As that was changing, and I've told you this before, but you know, it was a big loss for me. You know, I had invested quite a lot. You know, I had purchased assets, inventory, and to lose that, I had to find a way to supplement that. And selling different assets was an opportunity, but I wanted to create another stream of revenue. So I founded my real estate company, True Loyalty Properties, and I started, you know, at the very bottom, wholesaling properties to buyers who were killing it in the Northern Virginia market.
How do you do that?
Yeah, so education, right?
Yeah.
So I'm a huge, you know, lifelong learner. I have 8 core values that I live by, and education is right there, smack dab in the middle.
Nice.
And I just learned. I picked people's brains. You know, I know that's kind of taboo to say these days because
That's gross.
yeah, exactly. But
You're picking brains.
but I was fed all kinds of information on how to get that done. So, you know, and the goal of any real estate investor is to pick the strategy that works best for you. So wholesaling, you know, you can do that quickly. You know, depending on whether you double close or assign.
So that and wholesaling means you bought a whole property, like it's yours.
So, and a great question. So wholesaling is can be done 2 ways. You can double close, which means you can buy an entire property, hold it for X amount of time, which usually immediately, and sell it to someone who's a cash buyer in your market, or you can assign a contract. So that's
You put like a money down and then
correct. So you like options trading, which is on fire right now. You go under contract for a property with the right to assign it, and then you assign it to someone who's willing to buy it cash under the terms that the seller has agreed to. And there's usually a margin, depending on how you do business, is how spread out that margin is going to be. And for me, for a while, it felt a little like, you know, I always did the double close because I want to take the asset, but I couldn't always do that because it stretches you thin.
yeah, it's a lot of capital, right?
A lot of capital up front, and then you might as well buy, right? So I got my real estate license shortly after. You know, we'd been investing. Like I said, I started back in college in St. Joseph in 2009, but we began investing in 2017. I got licensed September 2017. So I've been a little over 4 years licensed in Virginia and Colorado.
And what does that look like? I know it could look like anyone can take it as far as they want.
Sure.
Like for you, where's your comfort zone in that? Do you like do one flip or I don't even know if they call
Sure,
it
flip. And you know, I'll dive in a little bit more on True Loyalty because you know, that even the name comes from one of my best friends, Jason French, who, you know, we are great friends to this day. He was my best man at my wedding recently. We just formed a True Loyalty, and I always told him that, you know, the bond we have is gonna go forever. And when I founded True Loyalty, I had just got out burned in a business relationship. I just got burned by a closure of a franchise. I was trying to rebound from that. So I was thinking, what's something long-term that's going to be in my life forever? So True Loyalty Properties was something that allowed me to invest with my strategy. So we were focused on flipping. As we've moved to Colorado and are focused on building within a community, you know, we've switched our strategy. And when I say our, my wife is my business partner here. And we partner with different businesses and people depending on private money lenders and how we want to structure deals. But my primary partner is my wife. We switched to a buy and hold strategy because, as you know, I made the announcement yesterday, we are expecting, and that changes, you know, your priority. Do I want to be maintaining, you know, 3 projects a month and still selling and transacting real estate on others' behalf and really working on, you know, my coaching clients and building out that portion of my business, or do I want to build some equity and hold some of these properties that are going to pay us some monthly cash flow? And it might not be as much to cover now, but if we pick up 2 properties a month, or 2 properties a year and hold them instead of transacting 3 every 2 months, you know, cash isn't as heavy, but my long-term return impeccable. And Father Time has proven that one, you know, will be successful as long as you're willing to hold and you don't get too greedy. So moving into that real estate license space, I was able to do less worrying about flips and manage some transactions. So helping real estate buyers, which is a full-time job, and flipping, which is also a full-time job, you find that sweet spot.
So real estate buyers, does that include like people, like someone who's actually in the business, or does that like include just someone who wants to buy some real estate?
Sure, both. Okay. So personally, myself, now in my business, which we'll get to that, I focus primarily on listings or commercial. Personally, okay. I will still help a buyer, my friends.
And that means people who are in the business.
People who want to sell their home.
Oh, want to sell their home.
Yep.
So not in the business. They just want to get rid of. Or
yep.
Sell
they
their
want
home.
to sell their property, their home, and then when I say buyers, some of them are in the business. So a lot of the buyers I've helped are investors. They're looking for a rental home. They're looking for something that they want to stay in and house hack, something like that. So I can speak that language very well because I come from an asset background. I understand that. Now, the challenging part for me, and this is where I grow my business and get people to partner with me, is when we're talking about the appeal of a bathroom or the backsplash. I want to talk, cost per square foot, return on investment. So then I had to say, well, I'm losing clients because I'm not focused on that, but these people still need help. So I can still negotiate the contract on their behalf, but maybe those questions can be better handled by a showing agent, a buying agent, someone who does enjoy that space. So instead of pawning off, that's not what I call it at all. I've created my business, my life, my system's big enough to start including more people to carry out some of those tasks that I still care about. I just don't necessarily want to focus on.
And is this your main business?
Yes. So True Loyalty is my primary company. Real Estate with Ernest is my real estate licensed company. So that's where I'm putting my primary focus in 2022. I do think that there's going to be some shifts in the market coming up. And I know I have had some friends ask me very serious questions because, they're not buying their first, some of them not their second home anymore. They're buying, a top dollar home in their life. So it's a little more daunting because, when you buy a home and it's just you or your significant other, not as much weight goes into it. But when it's you and your 3 children or your family that you've grown or, your older generation that needs more space with you, it's a heavier decision and a lot heavier on the wallet. So getting back into active transactions in real estate is what I'm focused on. But True Loyalty Properties is, like I said, something that's going to be around forever. I started coaching clients in 2018 with the move to Colorado. I didn't realize that there was a need for the space, but being successful in Northern Virginia allowed me to operate. At that time, Prince William County was the most expensive market and the hottest. That Nova, Northern Virginia area, that place is
okay.
But then coming to Colorado Springs, then it just got as crazy. For a while, 80911 was the hottest zip code. 80916 has been up there 2 times last year as far as the hottest zip code.
That's my zip code.
Dude, it's on fire there. Okay. My most recent transaction was out of 80916.
Okay.
So being able to have that experience in Northern Virginia, I realized I had a lot of value to give a lot of these investors and agents here in Colorado Springs because the market was shaping up. Granted, it's not DC area, but prices were becoming similar. Growth rate was becoming similar. The amount of millennials moving here, relocating out of, dense cities was higher here. So you saw a lot of stuff that I had grown to see in Virginia from 2016 to 2018 here. So I was able to
You feel like you were getting in early when you got here?
I still think it's early for Colorado Springs. You know that I'm very involved with, the community, and that's what I want to talk a little bit about too. I told you I would quote Jay-Z at some point.
Okay.
When he said, I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman, so that really hit me hard back in the day. And one of my mentors out here in Colorado Springs, helped me see that nonprofit is still business, right? It's literally in the name. It's a nonprofit business.
I didn't realize that either until I got into business. Though.
Exactly. And then government work is business. You're in the business of, civic duty. So, a term that we've been using a lot in our conversations recently is trisector leader. And that's not something I ever considered. I thought I was in the government, I worked for the government. Now I'm a businessman. I have to be the best businessman I can be. I didn't think I could serve my community. I could build diversity programs for Pikes Peak United Way here in Colorado Springs, be part of the mayor's fellowship, and meet some of the coolest people doing some of the coolest work here in the city, So focusing on these different prongs of being a businessman allowed me to even strengthen my real estate business because it's a relationship business.
It is, yeah.
But it also allowed me to dive deeper into my community. I knew that starting a real estate business, and a new community, even though I'd been in real estate for 3 years by that point, I'd have to do different strategies. I'm not born and raised here, but I am a military brat. I did serve in the military, so I have learned how to get into communities and really make a difference. And then just having that conversation about being a tri-sector leader and nonprofit leader kind of gave me that permission to do that. And it's something that I tell a lot of people that I coach now and mentor, that when you start leading in nonprofit leadership, it not only opens your eyes to what you can really accomplish, because they're doing so much with so little, it gives you that experience of helping people for less. Transacting real estate is really cool and you get paid really good to do it. But seeing someone overcome the hurdle of thinking they can never buy a home because they're in the sales business, or someone thinking that they'll never get enough money for their home because they bought it at the wrong time in the market, and just guiding them through that and letting them find a solution on their own just because you guided them there, I mean, that's life-changing. And when you see someone make the transaction or complete the transaction that changes their life, I mean, trajectories are changed.
Yeah.
So.
For sure. I think my move to Colorado is a big trajectory change for me.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I've seen you since you've been here, man. You've been crushing it, man. I love following you.
Yeah, things have been growing really well lately. Like, see, that's one thing that I didn't do when I first started. I knew I just needed to start or I never would.
Yep.
I didn't focus on systems. I knew if I tried to, I would get discouraged, just knowing my personality.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I knew that I just needed to jump off the deep end, and I did.
I say it, done is better than perfect.
Yeah.
Done is better than perfect.
And so a lot of lessons that I've had to learn, and like over the last year, I've been wanting to get more into systems. But this like I guess you could talk about like goals for 2022 is not necessarily like focusing on like the systems or the financial thing, but hiring the people to do that, is because I can't. So it's like, that's what I'm going to focus on, like is like aim, like actually get it done. But I've neglected a lot of things that if I keep neglecting, like my business is going to already fail before I just don't know it yet, you know.
Sure.
And I gotta watch out for that. And then I got some good things that I'm working on that I'm wanting to, that I think can bring in the capital enough that could help. I mean, like, business just started getting like consistently good for me over the last few months. Like, it was pretty up and down. Like 2021 was actually my most profitable year, not in business, in life. I made more money than I ever made in one calendar year in 2021.
Congratulations. Man, that's so good to hear. I'm happy for you.
Yeah, thank you.
And Cheyenne, we're sitting here. I will make sure you get those headshots. It's been great to work with you. I was able to work with you this past year, so thank you for that.
Yeah, no, thank you. I mean, I appreciate that. I appreciate your support and like the energy you give off, the things you do in the community. Like, I love all that. Like, it's you've been on my radar as well.
I appreciate that, man, a lot.
For sure. So you got the real estate business, True
Loyalty. Yep. True Loyalty Properties. Yep. So that's my investment company. We've done every exit strategy. We're experiencing every exit strategy. I coach every exit strategy. But my partner and I right now, we're focused on holds. It doesn't mean we won't entertain a buy. We have a strong enough buyers list where if it's a flip opportunity or someone is needing capital, we can push it out to our buyers. But us personally, we're looking for 3 to 5 units, 9 units. There was that one in Fountain I was really thinking about, but I didn't pull the trigger.
Okay.
So we're looking for some holds, and I told myself a long time ago, when I started having children, each time I have one or any, I would buy a property for them once I found out. And if they decided to go to college and couldn't afford it, we could sell that property. We could use the proceeds from it, and we'll do the savings and stuff like that. My wife is a huge saver, but that was just me choosing real estate as an investment and retirement opportunity for my family if they so choose, or just something that they can, build equity and pass down.
For sure. And so you got that, and then you got the speaking,
sure,
or the coaching and speaking.
Sure.
Right?
So it's speaking and coaching. That's Speak Inspired. My handle for that is My Inspirational Coach, and this is just something that I've been coaching real estate agents and real estate professionals, like I said, since 2018. And I love it. I have 4 little sisters.
So is that your coach? Is that what your coaching is around real estate?
That's where it started. So my inspirational coach is not. No, that's business consulting. That's mindset focused. 21 days of gratitude. Really total mindset. So I even talk about some health stuff. I'm not a nutritionist, but I do understand how important it is to be healthy in your own way.
Don't you like? Aren't you connected to a nutrition company or a health company?
Sure. Yeah. So number one, my wife is a certified personal trainer. She's also a registered nurse. Nancy and I met at our undergrad in Missouri, and she's been a nurse wow, for 10 years now. Oh, really cool. Registered nurse.
Okay.
You know, she's worked at KU Hospital. She's worked at
Nice.
Penrose, Maine down here,
Mm-hmm.
UC Health. So I love what she does. So that's how I'm personally connected to that healthcare realm. But like I said, franchising is something I have a lot of experience with, as well as getting started in startups, not just my own, but helping others. I have a really good friend of mine from college. He goes by JR. He was delivering meal preps. So, you know, he'll come to your house, you know, cook it on the George Foreman grill, full-time job.
Wow,
you know,
okay.
And just like, he was just a health nut, you know, had action figure body, and he would just really cared about food, and making sure that, you know, you fed your body what was right, even if he had to stay up till 3 a.m. cooking it on the George Foreman and taking it to you. You know, I loved it. I have some pictures where, you know, he's just plastic bags and, you know, generic Tupperware. And I knew that he was really interested in that. And him and another friend of mine, Miles, who owns Leibowitz Menwear in St. Joseph, right there. They've been in business, and great company if you're looking for men's dress clothes in St. Joseph, no question. But we sat down and we started Think and Grow Rich Mastermind table.
Oh, I don't want to cut you off.
No, go for it.
I actually, when I was in Vegas earlier this month, one of the things was like a business incubator, like small entrepreneurship startup thing.
Sure.
Well, I was the only one in the room getting paid to be there.
Nice. Nice.
So that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I was also absorbing everything. I was
Yeah.
like, and then a lot of the things, like one of the like this was like 11, 12 hours like straight, like 2 or 3 days, and like I think it was 2 days, 2.5 days, like just straight information, blah 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 blah.
Absolutely.
And like it was just really awesome. It was like really eye opening. But one of the things you talked about was like you need to start a mastermind group, and like
Yeah.
I was thinking about doing that. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
This
And
year.
it could be as simple as a group message. You know what I mean? But we started meeting at my Aspen Leaf Frozen Yogurt. Every Monday we would sit. We called it Round Table, and we would just talk about what our business looks like. What if we could, you know, accomplish the goals we set inside, and you know, in that book, if the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. You know, it says that. So we would just meditate on those things, and we would read a chapter, read 2 chapters, come back and talk about it. And
This is cool.
and it just, you know, it talks about, you know, the mastermind. 2 minds is greater than 1, but when they're together, they create an additional 1. So there was 3 of us together. So just opportunities were presenting themselves, businesses were happening, and JR and I were at the gym, and I connected him with a gentleman who owned a Fit Republic there in St. Joseph, and he had been talking about the meal prep business in a conceptual way, and JR was out there getting it, you know? So, you know, we're doing biceps, and I think he's doing back, and I'm just like, hey, you guys need to talk. Like, seriously, just go sit outside and talk for a couple of minutes. A few weeks later, they were building a kitchen in the back of his franchise, and Lean Kitchen, that started from, you know, ideas, and I'm just so happy because that was the first time I'd ever been truly party to a concept being born. I think there are 22 plus locations now, 10 states,
Lean
10
Kitchen.
states. Yep.
Lean Kitchen.
Kitchen Company. Shout out Lean Kitchen Company. If you're looking for meal prep, they deliver. JR, I mean, I'm sorry, brother, if I'm putting you on the spot, but I remember he didn't even have a computer, and he was on Google Docs on his phone, like setting up recipes and building out templates for his franchise, and now they're franchisors. You know what I mean? So, so that's my connection to the nutrition world. My wife has soon-to-be nutritionist, but registered nurse and fitness trainer, and then JR and Austin and Lean Kitchen
Doing
Company.
some good stuff. That's
Some
awesome.
amazing stuff, changing people's lives.
Put one out here in Colorado Springs.
So, you know, we've talked about it a few times. They do have some in Denver. So if you're out in the Denver market, and I know that you're in Kansas City, if some of you are watching this and hearing this.
That's true. Yeah.
They're in Kansas City, St. Joseph. Go pick them up. You know, like I said, they're delivering from, you know, they've responded to COVID well. They're, you know, technology. Austin is awesome with, you know, putting technology at the forefront. But yeah, they may be working on something because, you know, they work really well being in a supplement store or a gym or something like that, because food business is hard all alone, no matter what the food is. So, you know, it's just a little strategic getting that in there. So we've talked. So stay tuned.
So does he ever come out to Colorado Springs?
He was supposed to come for the wedding, so I'm putting you on blast again, JR.
shoot.
But no, he's, you know, he has a son. I call his son Bam Bam.
Okay.
And yeah, so he does get out here every now and then, but he's always setting up, you know, their new franchises. He's basically their franchise development lead, even though he's like the lead chef, and you know he does it all. But
in 22 locations, and when was this conceived?
and I don't want to misquote, but 22 plus.
22
I want to say
plus, yes.
7 to 10. The last time I looked at the
At
stats.
least 22.
At least 22
and
locations.
When was it conceived?
So the idea, meal prep made ready, is what JR birthed in 2016.
Okay.
They partnered at the end of 2016, 2017, launched Lean Kitchen Company, and started franchising. I want to say 2018 is when they started doing FDDs.
wow.
So maybe 2017. They were
cool.
quick to market.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, just I love business because business is relationship. And when you get to see, sorry, JR, I'm using you as an example. And I'll talk about another Missouri example because in my coaching business, I have a lawn care company that, we launched, last year, and he's in the 6-figure revenue range already. And, he's putting snow removal to his business, and just what does that look like? How much is equipment? Can we finance that equipment now? Because we've been in business for a while. So just having those kinds of conversations. But JR was working at a call center when he launched. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Making calls all night and cooking all
That's
morning.
so cool.
So, yeah, anything's possible. And when you find something that you love, spatially or in a relationship way, and you turn it into something that you can do, you can profit from, I mean, the sky's the limit. And if you are unbarred from having a genuine relationship, and that's what technology does, I can interact with someone in India to help build a product. I can learn from someone in China. I can develop with someone in Africa. And that mastermind that we discussed is now international. You know what I mean? And,
wow, okay.
Getting my MBA here at UCCS in 2021 in international business and marketing, you learn about the different things that one product, and I'm thinking a digital product, is touched, in 4 different countries before we receive it as a consumer. And globalization. And I know people have their different arguments, and
for sure, yeah.
but the fact that brains from all over the country can be in the same room, whether it's a virtual room or physical.
Yeah, and then with the metaverse, and I know people have their own arguments on there too,
dude. But I mean, it's coming.
I love it, and I think it's a great thing, and I think people in the 1800s, they feared trains because they thought you couldn't go that fast,
right? Or they exactly. Not only conceive, believe, and achieve, right? So if you don't think you can fly, you never will.
Exactly.
So
yeah.
and that's huge. So the metaverse, man, that's a whole new world. And I talked to my cousin.
In real estate too.
I mean, dude, there's real estate in the metaverse selling for millions of dollars.
Selling for
millions.
The minimum cost for a 1-by-1 plot in Sandbox, which is a specific metaverse, you can hopefully find it for $3,000. Like that's what you're paying. But what's cool, you can actually, like I told you a little bit about what I'm going to pivot into.
Sure.
I could lease out these lands and put different companies in them.
Absolutely.
And also develop them for them as well.
Oh, dude, and then NFTs for rewards.
Yeah.
I've got a good.
Well, technically, these plots are NFTs if you think about it. Like,
right.
They're on the blockchain. You actually buy them on an NFT site, OpenSea. So.
But what if that was one of your rewards, though? You know what I mean? Like when they finish or they're a certain level, we'll talk. I'm so excited, dude. You got something going right now.
Yeah. I'm pumped on that. So,
yeah.
So yeah, man. So with the speaking and the coaching, what does the business look like? How do you juggle that? Like,
sure.
With the real estate, is that really much time consuming, or
sure.
is that minimal time consuming?
Yeah. So real estate is time consuming, especially in this market. So like I said a little bit earlier, is I've pivoted to my personal focus in my real estate business is agent attraction. So if you're interested in real estate, whether it's buying, selling, investing, becoming a licensed agent, I just want to talk to you about the exit strategies, what's worked for me, what hasn't. I haven't had all successes in real estate or out of business in general. I've learned a lot, and I love to share that. And like I was saying earlier, I have 4 little sisters. So from the age of 7 years old, I've been investing in the generation behind me in a literal and metaphorical sense because I give them all, and they've always told me, and people who are close to me, like, you need to be sharing this. You need to give this motivation to others. I'm like, I'm not Eric Thomas. Like, I'm not going to be like E.T., but...
or did you desire to be, though?
I desired to help people.
Okay.
My personal mission is to inspire generations by leading people to be purposeful and healthy.
Okay, so whatever you need to do to make that happen, you're willing to do.
Exactly. And, for me, that was service in uniform. And it took me studying who I was and who I wasn't to actually get to that mission. And my vision was building a platform in real estate because, number one, before NFTs and crypto, real estate was making the most millionaires, right? But
for sure.
As a data analyst and a professional intelligence officer, I studied historical trends, and I wanted to make sure that I aligned myself with trends that would be most successful for myself and now soon to be family.
Yeah.
So yeah, exactly. So being able to build something allowed me to share more. So not only have I had success and failure in franchising, I've had success and failure in investing. I've had success and failure in flips, wholesaling. Why did I go get my license? I had success and failure transitioning from the military. You know what I mean? So now that I've done it wrong, done it well, I feel like I have the authority to speak. Where when my sisters would get motivated, or a really good friend of mine would leave a conversation and say, dude, I just did this because you said that. That was in confidence of friendship. I am a firm believer of learning. Like I said, you learn before you earn. And I felt like I still had a lot to learn about myself and business. But I will say this to anyone that's thinking about getting in business, or there's an idea tugging at the back of their head, like, don't wait. I definitely took a conservative route, but that's because, in my profession, I measured the most likely course of action, the most dangerous course of action. What are going to be the pitfalls, and what are
SWOT analysis.
Exactly. And then now there's a Taos, so you flip that around and you want to see what are going to be some of the opportunities that intersect with options you don't choose. So now you're looking at cost benefit analysis. So, before I get, analysis paralysis, I do make a decision, but I try to make the most informed decision. So doing that,
so
real estate was the
you're
answer.
balancing, because you recognize that analysis paralysis
is a real thing.
And
And I've been a victim of it.
Me too, yeah.
Launching this coaching business, for example, and it's more of a speaking business because I do coach one-on-one clients, but a lot of times that turns into Who Wants to Talk Real Estate. The mindset coaching, that's just me being a friend to someone. I call it being a battle buddy. My time has become more valuable, so there is a cost structure that I apply to that. If we build a relationship and you've done the coaching milestones that I've created for you, and we still text and talk, like, you're my friend now. I don't, you know what I mean? Exactly.
For sure.
But having success coaching real estate agents becoming performers or working through deals that they were uncomfortable working before, seeing people make financial decisions. And, I do want to shout out my cousin, Tanya Rapley, Flash, because she's a millennial money expert. She just celebrated her first $1 million year in revenue.
Nice.
Personal brand, has made, significant income, but she puts a battery in my back. She hypes me up because she is living proof that someone's going to listen, but more importantly, someone needs to hear it. Now with her being a mom and working businesses, her audience is different, but the platform she has built, financial education, is the same. So for me, real estate is my business freedom. That's what's created it for me. That's where I started coaching. So if someone calls me and they are thinking about starting a business about an app, I won't go into too much detail, but we're funding someone right now for an app that's going to help with a drink service. We'll leave it that simple. I have looked at enough businesses, enough profit and losses, different types of franchises to know if something is viable. And I have a big enough network where I can lean on people who are doing it in different industries, whether it's apps, whether it's franchising, whether it's real estate, whether it's supplement business, fast food business. So I can always pull from that. So that mastermind we talked about is extremely important. And then that experience in real estate and coaching those clients has allowed me to see things in a positive light. Well, if the closing isn't going to close, what's my alternative? If the buyer, if something happened with the buyer's funding because they bought a brand new Mercedes-Benz or Ford Raptor truck right before closing, how do we respond to that? So the resiliency of being a military professional and then a successful real estate professional allows me to coach in different avenues and communities. And then I'll be completely honest with you, brother. Working with Pikes Peak United Way in the LEAD program and building out some of that stuff and working those food distributions really inspired me to get out of my own way. That imposter syndrome, I don't deserve to say this. I didn't have that authority to say this, but in reality we do. And that's what that message was for people who are thinking about something. Take that step because you don't need an MBA. I thought I did. You don't need all the money from, a military experience. I thought I did. There's tools for you. There's resources for you. There is options to get funding. When you seek funding and you have a good idea, the funding will be there if you say it to the right community.
Or if you're persistent enough. That's for sure.
Exactly. You will get no's, and it takes a while for other people to see visions. I'll share another example, and this is for people who might feel stagnant or analysis paralysis because I remember when I got out the military, I had a couple of buddies, pilot, logistics officer getting out with me, and I was telling them, like, hey, let's get into some of these real estate deals. I really think you could benefit from this, and they just didn't see it. And now, 3-5 years later, they see it and they're getting involved in it, of course, but how has the real estate market changed? Colorado Springs raised almost 30% in some areas year over year. So, when I was talking to this talking this to them in 2015, 2016. But everyone sees at their own pace. And as a coach, it's taught me that patience, because I can sit with someone who understands it, but they don't see it. And that's what I wanted to say a little bit earlier about visionaries and integrators. You know, as you build partnerships and masterminds happen, you want to make sure you have someone who's a visionary, and even in relationships, right? My wife is an integrator. You tell her what to do, she gets it done. And I don't mean that in any slighted way, but she focuses on a mission, and she's going to complete that task. Where I can be a visionary. Man, that's a really good idea. You know, oh, that's a really good idea too. Yeah. And if we put those together, but you know, my time in the military and then franchising, you have to roll up your sleeves and get it done. So you can straddle in between that visionary and integrator, but it's important to find someone that's an integrator if you're a visionary.
Walt Disney had like a brother, I think, who was the integrator, and Walt Disney was the
drawing on paper towels, exactly, on napkins, exactly. Yeah. So you know, you finding that relationship, and again, that's something that. A lesson I passed down and I like to share is because business is relationships. So relationships end. So do businesses. And sometimes when you...
So do lives.
Amen. And I hope no one's that's listening does soon, because there's a lot out here to get, you know, and when something ends, it's should be used as an opportunity to grow. And when you do grow into the space you're supposed to, it's a little bit easier. Now, you're going to have your challenges. You're going to stay up late. You're going to hit road bumps. You know, obstacle is the way. Ryan Holiday is one of my favorite authors.
I like him too.
Yeah, he's great. You know, and it will be a challenge, but sometimes you know you're moving in the right direction because things fall into line. When you're working with a purpose.
It's funny, though, how things just fall into line when you believe in yourself.
That's where you have to start. Yeah. You know, you have to be the first domino. You know, you have to line the rest of them up, but they won't fall until you push them, you know? So absolutely, when you believe in yourself, things can change. Everything changes, actually.
Yeah, and it's cool that you brought up the Think and Grow Rich, because when I was in Vegas, the second event that I did there, well, it was like the third or fourth actually. I did a bunch. I was there for one, and I got hired for like 3 more.
Nice.
It was pretty
nice.
cool.
That's the way it's supposed to be.
And like the last one was called Ultimate Wealth Camp. And Sharon Lecter was there, who co-authored Rich Dad Poor Dad. She also wrote Think and Grow Rich for Women.
Nice.
And it was, I mean, it wasn't just the title she wrote. She actually got it approved by the Napoleon Hill Foundation.
Sure.
Not approved. I think she's part of the board for that or something like that.
Yeah,
I don't know.
She's involved. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Mark Victor Hansen was there as well too, who did the chicken soup, or not chicken soup, but chicken soup for the soul. I think. Okay. I think that's what it's called. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do.
Yeah. And those two people were there, but it was just interesting, like that you brought up the Think and Grow Rich, because I was just like in the presence of one of the writers of it.
Dude, you got. Yeah, I mean, I'll reread it with you, man. No joke. Like seriously, you'll get to Mastermind Alliance, and you'll want to.
I'm re-listening to it right now, actually.
Good to know. But you know, I digressed a little bit because I just wanted to talk about what led to some of that coaching, and what is really happening behind that business, because it's my newest business, you know. And when I was working with Mount Carmel Veteran Service Center here in Colorado Springs, I was helping people write resumes, preparing for interviews. And dude, the sense of fear, and a 25-year retiring master sergeant or sergeant major is afraid that he's not going to be valuable in the outside world, and it's just the mentality, so it wasn't that you have to have a bunch of skills or have a really specialty niche to be successful.
You want to teach these people that they could still hold that community service, I guess you could say.
Absolutely.
And not being, they can retire.
There's nothing to be afraid of. And not even retire. I mean, what about, I didn't retire. There's veterans that did 3 years and they're ready to get out, but they don't know anything else, or they did it right after high school. And not just veterans, anyone, they got into food services right after high school and they don't think they can make a career shift, so me having those experiences, I finally felt like it was time to step out. And, what Speak Inspired does, and like I said, my inspirational coach for the social media handles will, help federal resumes. So if you're a veteran or just someone looking to seek federal employment, I am 10-step certified to be a veteran coach for federal resumes and federal job coaching. Mindset.
You're in the right city.
Absolutely. and you'd be, these veterans are getting out of the military with top secret security clearances, 10 years of very specified work, and then thinking that, I have no opportunity outside of contracting. When, whether it's launching a business, getting into real estate, getting with an organization that values what you did in the military, but you might be doing it in a project management field. But just learning how to translate those massive skills you have and experiences into assets for the private sector. And that's something that's easier said than done sometimes, because the mindset is where you start.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm big at mindset, resume coaching, and then the speaking portion. That just has, a lot of people say talking or speaking comes natural. I don't think speaking comes natural. Talking can come natural, but speaking, creating a concept, delivering the concept quickly, concisely, and then prompting positive feedback is a challenge, but it's the newest challenge I've taken on, and I love it. Whether it's diversity, equity, inclusion, like with the LEAD program in Pikes Peak United Way, and I'm speaking on that topic specifically, or just how to carry yourself in a conversation or interview skills. Speaking to audiences about how to better themselves, man, it gets me going. You know what I mean? Even more than it gets me going. So, I know I've kind of dwelled on Speak Inspire, but that's because...
No, I wanted you to. I like that, yeah.
I appreciate
you
that.
were passionate about it, so
exactly.
let's lean into it.
and I chase my passions, and I don't let passions lead me, but I chase them. We kind of started talking our personal conversation about it, something you were passionate about, and that's what you're leaning into.
Oh yeah.
it doesn't. It's work. It's always work, right? If you trade time, value, skills, talents, or ability for $1, it's work, because that's how we view work. But it's less cumbersome when it's something that you're passionate about.
What's crazy about that idea is, when I was in high school, I told you that it's something I wanted to go into college for. Literally up until about 2 months ago, I thought it was something that was impossible without college. Yeah. And then something opened my eyes up about a couple months ago that, holy cow, I can do this. I have the skills.
It's a mindset, dude. You have more than the skills, and you can be a leader in that space and help others get into it.
The thing that I've noticed with it too, I know we're sounding mysterious right now.
It's coming, though. It's coming, I promise.
I've noticed looking into spending over 150 hours in the last month, just studying this stuff. Literally, almost everyone in the field aren't entrepreneurial mindset. Like they think they got to go work for a company. Yeah. And that's why I thought about the college thing.
But but foregoing college in that sense though has allowed you to see that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Think so, yeah.
You're gonna bring way different experiences than the cookie cutter, person that's gonna be your peer in that space.
And what's cool about that, that's also beneficial for me, because now I got a lot of people who I could hire.
Exactly. And you see it, and we'll take it way back, because when I get passionate, I get going. But you asked me how I balance all that. So I'm huge documentary. You see, I have my notepad here. I have a few things in my OneNote. We talked about, storage and stuff like that recently. But, in my home office and at work, I have whiteboards all over the place. I like
That's funny you said that. I don't have whiteboards, but I have white walls, and I just bought a bunch of washable markers.
Nice.
I bought a bunch of washable
so
markers.
I have to see it, man. As you can see, if I see a rabbit hole, I'm digging in it. You know what I mean?
Actually, yesterday I wrote on my wall, which is a quote I posted on Facebook by Carl Jung, and it's like, "You are what you do, not what you say you'll do." And I just wrote that front and center.
Preach.
It's a
That's
good.
deep.
It's a good.
That's deep. So, for me, I'm a big documenter. In my profession in the military, you have to document everything, and then you shred it or you burn it, because the sensitivity of it. But when you're building such detailed analysis, you have to go back and look at it. So that's where I kind of started using OneNote in the first place. And then I'm a planner guy. I know it's cheesy, but I will use the 3 gratitude prompts. I will do the daily planner and stick to that, because again, a guy of systems, right? I am a creature of habit, raised by retired Army veterans, served in the military, started franchising. And then when I got into real estate, as a licensed agent, I looked for the best training and the best systems, and now the brokerage I'm with, I'm with eXp Realty, their technology and their systems, leaders in the space.
And don't they have a stock that's been going crazy?
Yeah, so it's definitely. I think it jumped up to 140.
And then there was a glitch a week ago. Yeah.
Yeah, it's technology, and even with the newness of it, there seems to be an understanding. So you can tell in the back office that they're really working with the engineers to understand the product, because as we move into this virtual space, I'm part of an organization called Game Changers in the real estate community, and we meet virtually. And we just, Anthony is my sponsor, and we just had a meeting virtually in the EXP world, and I could see him.
So that leads me an idea that we could talk about afterwards.
Sure. Yeah. Exactly.
just because of the name of it.
Yeah. And that's what I was kind of talking about too. I have a group of friends that are working on a product to help the communication between all these platforms. So I think you'd fit right in with that with what we were talking about.
But that also confuses me about real estate. So maybe you can clear this up for me.
Sure.
You have True Loyalty, but you're under EXP?
Sure. So True Loyalty Properties is my investment firm. That's what I launched.
They're completely separate from EXP.
100% separate. True Loyalty Properties does not transact real estate. There's no license held within that organization. If there's a transaction made, it's done by True Loyalty Properties LLC or one of myself or my partner, again, my wife. And then we do have an acquisitions manager who's authorized to sign contracts, but wouldn't fund the deal without my approval. But that's purchases and sales. So that's my personal business. When I buy a property and I'm going to hold it for more than 2 years, I'm going to let it sit in that company or that holding. Real estate with Ernest is with EXP, and that's my licensed brokerage. I am a licensed agent. I represent others on their transactions and get paid a commission to do so. That's where I hang my license. You heard a lot of realtors say they hang their license at such and such broker. As an independent agent, I can work by myself and then still use their resources. Some opportunities to join a team, that's a job. And you clock in, you clock out, and of course there's some freedom because you're in the real estate community. But that's the difference. True Loyalty Properties is my investment firm. Real Estate with Ernest, or Ernest R.E. Chamblee, LLC, is my transaction business.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, that's something that's confuses me a little bit.
Sure.
There's a lot of things about real estate that probably confuse me.
Sure, and I'll take it one step further, because another thing I did in Colorado Springs, and I talked about Jay-Z once already, and I'm from New York,
Yeah, okay.
New York bred, but he owns businesses out the wazoo, but you'll still hear or read an article about him taking the VP job at Puma for basketball or the president job for Def Jam. So he's not afraid to work on his businesses, build brands, personal brands, but still serve different organizations. So that's what I did, with Mount Carmel, with Pikes Peak United Way. But I did work for a company called Boxer Property locally here in Colorado Springs, and we managed, leased out, managed, purchased, acquired. It was a really cool commercial real estate property, but about 200,000 square foot of commercial real estate here in Colorado Springs. So that experience, putting that into my business and some of those systems and things like that, some of the relationships from leasing out commercial space that you build. There are other business owners that you're connecting with. So just adding that layer to my business has been a huge help, especially on the coaching side, because those relationships with those business owners have referred me a lot of their friends who just want to get a lease on a new spot and get their business up and going. Yeah. Sometimes starting an LLC and getting your EIN is daunting. You know what I mean? Unless you know somebody that's done it.
It shouldn't be, because it's really freaking easy.
You know what I mean? But you go to Dun & Bradstreet number, and now you're on some paid website, and you're like, why did I just spend $119? Like, whoa, you know what I mean? So like just being able to walk through that process with people gives them the confidence to say, okay, I'm going to at least start off on the right foot. The next best step. Kind of like.
See, that's where I'm saying I missed a lot of things when I started. Like I registered the LLC, but I just learned about the Dunn's things.
Dun & Bradstreet, build the credit.
Just learned about that like a month ago. Because when I was actually not even a month ago, but like I said, I went to that business thing in Vegas. One of the things he was talking about, I was like personal credit, business credit, and I was like, I didn't even think about business credit.
See, we got to sit down more, man. We gotta hang out more. And that's I talked briefly about Mo Cuts. That's a company that I'm coaching out in Kansas City. Nice. Your stomping ground. It's lawn services and snow removal, and that's the process. The very
my
first.
brother's starting a company in Kansas City. Right
Perfect.
Now, so.
We can connect them. I know that he's looking. He's crushing it right now, and he's always looking for help. Right for people to do the service, or right now the snow removal. He's loading up his team to do that. But the first lawnmower he bought was personal. He swiped his card. Now we have a Paydex score. We've got
these cameras right here. That same thing.
Exactly. So, but now that he has a Duns & Bradstreet, now he's able to flex that business credit. And, in my experiences, I've had to make purchases from different vendors, and now I understand the reporting system. So I can help a client of mine or a friend, depending on what their business relationship is, build this credit that instead of, I shouted out my cousin earlier. Her and her husband started a Turo fleet, and instead of using your personal credit, which she's very privy to this, she's someone I look up to for financial guidance. Nice. Use your business credit, and that's going to take you. You might get a higher interest rate, but it's not impacting your personal credit at all. You're able to leverage it a little bit more, and it's an additional credit utilization that you're not using. So
exactly,
it's really cool if you follow some of these steps. And then again, for my veterans. Man, I missed all those steps. The ones you're talking about, but I jumped in head first because I thought franchises had everything. But you can buy a franchise with the veteran small business loan. You can invest into different.
Why couldn't you? Yeah.
But you know, so
it's those things you don't know what you don't know. So.
And you know, not saying that I've made it. You know, you saw my post recently. So there's a lot of targets that I've missed or I feel personally behind on. But that's what targets are for, right?
What did they say? What did someone said? Someone said recently. You know, being an entrepreneur is something about like you're just failing all the time.
All the time, all the time, literally. But you don't fail until you stop. You know what I mean? And something that I learned from challenging businesses. Is sometimes when you stop,
you don't fail until that's how you got to look at investing as well too. Like, you know, like if you put some money in and it goes down, like especially with crypto, like they call it, you got to hodl your life.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurship is one big hodl.
It is. It is. And, you know, entrepreneurship's a term that, you know, for example,
it's a buzzword for sure.
It is a buzzword, just like, you know, EDI or diversity, equity, inclusion is right now, even though they're important and, you know, the power behind them are extremely valuable. But that's why I like to call myself a business leader. Definitely I'm an entrepreneur. I have started, lost, built, you know, changed businesses and enterprises, but business is a relationship. You know, I keep saying that, but it's important. Whether it's real estate, whether it's visual assets, whether it's freaking chocolate.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a relationship, you know, and how you handle
That's why
that
this podcast. That's why doing a podcast works so well for a business. I actually, maybe we could talk about this too. Maybe I've already talked with you about this. How I have an idea to franchise this podcast.
Nice.
For different, like the Kansas City business podcast, the Dallas, Texas business podcast, or you know, whatever you want to say it.
Right.
Or you know, and like basically, it would come like you would obviously have the franchisor like up front, like money you put up.
Sure.
But that money goes back into the equipment you need. That money goes obviously for. The franchise, you know, and obviously profits for me.
Absolutely. Royalties, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it also comes with like the first year, I'm there coaching you every month, you know, what to do this, how to build these systems that I've had to build for this.
Absolutely.
How to do this switching, like, you know, like all this extra technical stuff that I can help you, and how to get your name out there, how to build out the profile, how to book the people, because at first you're having to spend hours finding people for your show, but you get to a point where you don't even. I haven't had to reach out to someone to be a guest on the show for like 6 months.
Right.
Like it's just that, you know.
It's systemized, you know, and that's a great point. For example, I know I'll lean on my experience, although I have experience with other franchises. My prominent experience is with Rocky Mountain Chocolate Factory. The moment you walk into a Rocky Mountain Chocolate Factory, again, you know, certain locations are challenged, but you receive a sample, right? But that's ingrained into you as an owner or a manager of a location, because that simple systemized function creates the initiation of that relationship, right? So whether it's my business card in real estate or a sample in my chocolate store, I'm initiating that relationship in a positive way, and franchising systemizes that, right? So I think that's a brilliant idea.
And see, and the idea, the reason why I brought that up is because I think you can be in any industry, whether you're a photographer, whether you're a real estate agent, whether you sell a product that's like small and maybe you've only sold 100 of them.
Sure.
Whatever business, if you start a business podcast or just a podcast with this kind of idea where you're meeting people, you're talking to people, but you're also giving back.
Sure.
Because that's what a lot of this podcast does. It's about community. It's about shedding light on people in the community, you know, like in a high quality way that's really not done by anyone else.
Right.
That I think that I've not just think, I've searched.
And the business focus of it, man, especially here in Colorado Springs, we're turning into a nice little mecca of
exactly
millennial business.
Of business. It may even be like the business capital of the world. Who knows?
I wouldn't doubt it. You know, I'm from New York, so hard to say, but I do have a weird love for Colorado Springs. I'm not from here. As a military brat, I never got to choose where I was gonna be, and then in the military, I got my orders and I went there. So, you know, when Nancy and I were, finally moving, we were so close to going to Kansas City. We literally stopped the truck in Kansas City. And we're like, you know what, this doesn't feel right. We prayed on it, and we kept going to Colorado. But
what's interesting is if you did stay in Kansas City, we probably would have even never met, even though that's where I'm from.
Very true. We would have just literally ships in the night.
It's interesting because I didn't start networking or even like putting myself out there until I was in Colorado Springs.
Sure.
Although I did start the business in Kansas City. I think it's even still registered in Missouri, actually.
Nice. Nice.
But it's also registered in Colorado too.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't even see this. I don't know the logistics of that. I don't even know if that's legal. I think it is. I don't
Yeah,
know.
you definitely could, or you could have just foreign filed,
Yeah.
your city and your existing business. But again, that's stuff that like you don't know it unless you know it. And I no longer want to be, and they call it in the Intel community, stovepiping. I have a lot of information now, and now I feel I have a lot of information, experiences, perspectives that when I share them, I'm like, wow, this isn't just for me. It's not just to hear myself talk. It's actually empowering people, inspiring people. So it's just been an amazing journey from, a life of service in the military to figuring out how can I still serve? Is it in the nonprofit realm? Is it in the for-profit realm? Is it in the real estate community? Am I out there handing out food, which I love to do? Food distributions at Pikes Peak United Way, man. They're military operations.
Nice.
Shout out Elizabeth Cavedo, who's the director of community impact over there. She's a former military officer, West Point grad, and she runs that thing like a darn, operation. And we're feeding, last time I did the stats, we fed over 1.6 million pounds of food to Colorado Springs. Sierra High School, Centennial Elementary. For a while, they were at Mitchell, and imagine how many people weren't working during COVID that we were able to make sure they had food on their table. So.
That's awesome.
Relationship, and that's a real estate relationship. I built that relationship through a real estate connection through UCCS. And now, so business is relationship, man. I firmly believe that.
Yeah, dude, I couldn't agree more. and we're in a relational type of business environment here in Colorado Springs. Some cities like Denver, maybe even New York, are more transactional.
Sure.
But I think business as a whole is changing to the relational side because of things like social media, technology advances, where we have to focus back on that. I was listening to, while I was setting everything up before you came in here, I was listening to this Vsauce episode with Michael Stevens, who's from the Kansas City area. I found that out when I did some research on him.
Nice.
But he's got one of the biggest educational YouTube channels. If you haven't heard of Vsauce, check it out. But he just did one a few months ago. It was 30 minutes about the future of reasoning.
Okay.
And how we've developed when we're talking to people, we can ask a question and reasoning goes as far as questioning goes, kind of as far as that. But he was basically saying because of social, we've developed these reasoning things, but because there was original types of reasoning that we had that we're gonna have to lean back onto now, which is more having social groups come together and discussing ideas, because just the reasoning has changed completely because of social media. Anyone can go on there and say something without even having a thought, expressing those it's not working, and it's actually destroying our society in a lot of ways. Though it also has lots of benefits as well too.
Right.
So it's now we have to develop ways on top of that, which actually just go back to how we did it originally.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And, I think about in your business right now, moving to a virtual format. I could have sat in the comfort of my room. We could have threw on some screens and probably had a very similar conversation if I would have had the technology. But there's the rapport building that is necessary.
And honestly, I do have some counters for that, specifically for my podcast. First one being, we've never done one virtually.
Because it's hard, right? How do you communicate through a screen the way we are?
Yeah.
How do I feel your energy? How do I know? Yeah. So
it does work, and we could still have a good conversation. But also, it's an experience. When you come on this COS business podcast, I want it to be an experience, not just for the audience, but the guest. I want the guest to experience. You come downtown to this business environment. Right. It's snowing outside for today.
It's a beautiful day. We got first day of the year. We got some snow.
Yeah, first snow of the winter.
Right. It's been dry.
And so it's there's that experience, but who knows? There's other things too, like maybe even pheromones that we're picking up when you're in person.
Exactly, and like you said, the reasoning has to go back to the beginning. So my point to that was how do we change? How is technology changing businesses? But then how do we go back to the basics? So instead of just jumping on a call, if we do this virtually, we're probably gonna jump on 30 minutes before and rehearse it a little bit more. But since I was here, we can do it while we're chatting. We can chat downstairs. So it just adds, a different layer of human, which we'll never be able to, we'll never say never, right? There's a lot of stuff going on, but that human interaction is huge, and you can't fake it through a screen. You can get it done. And that's what businesses are figuring out. How do I add technology to my business and capitalize?
That's where I think the metaverse comes into play. A lot of people see dystopian. I don't see dystopian. But
a lot of people are pessimist.
That's true. That
Unfortunately.
is true. But like, I've experienced VR. I have a VR headset.
Nice.
Actually, I think I seen you on the Oculus. Do you have an Oculus?
I have a program. Nancy is supposed to be getting me a new one. We'll see.
Okay.
We'll see.
What's
Remember, I have
funny
little
is, like,
sisters.
if you have an Oculus, you know exactly which of your friends have an Oculus
Yeah.
on Facebook.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
On Meta.
Oh, yeah, Meta. Excuse me. Right. And I always say they were down for all those hours that day because they were switching over servers, man.
Okay.
That's my bet. I'd cash out on that.
But I see the potential in it. Like I've always I've experienced VR a few years ago, and I've always wanted an Oculus. I finally got one a couple months ago.
Nice.
And I'm just excited about it. But that's actually kind of what led me down to the route that I'm going to right now, in a way, just because it is actually very creepy, weird how real it feels inside there.
Right.
And we don't even have like haptic gloves. Like once
Not yet. They're coming.
Like once you can actually, it will feel like you are shaking that person's hand, and your brain won't know the difference.
Yeah.
That's the crazy part right there.
That's how awesome our brains are and this technology is. But and I love you say that because I don't think it's too far off. Maybe 2023, where I'm regularly on a weekly basis logging into my EXP team. Managing my buyers agents and listing agents in a virtual format.
See, I still, even though like I see where it's going, I still think it's a couple years, maybe even a little bit more than that. Just
for the visual portion, but we're hosting
portion.
meetings in there now, brother.
Okay,
like there's meeting rooms where, and I'd love to show you sometime, but you walk into a meeting room and it's a cone of silence once two people enter the same blue zone. You know what I mean? You can sit down. You have.
Is it in VR?
No, not yet. They're working on it.
Is it capable of VR?
It is.
Okay.
So EXP's founder also owns a company called Verbella, and they're working on a lot of that functionality because it's a world. You're immersed in the world, but they do want to connect that VR because, like I said, around this time next year, a few months into the year, I'd imagine.
I do think
shaking a client's hand in
I
VR.
do think the hardware is too clunky right now. That's why I say that. Like I can't wear the Oculus for more than 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Like my skull, like my sockets on my bones, they feel like there's an ache. Like there's an ache there. That's I guess the best way to describe it. Well, and also like if I'm playing like a game that's like a lot of motion, like I actually had to take a nap after playing once.
Interesting.
That's not good, Like
interesting.
I know I'm just one anecdotal case study, but like that's not
Share
good.
that with them though. Remember, it's relationship. Business is relationship and problem solving. So that sounds like a problem to be solved, whether it's an engineer working on the physical or putting them in glasses. I've seen a lot of.
It's got to be a lot more lightweit, and we're getting that.
And you have one of the newer ones, so it has the rubber.
Yes, it does. Yes,
so it's supposed to be more comfortable, but
yeah, it's supposed to be, but and I honestly, I'm the type of guy who's like. Oh, I just gotta push through it.
Exactly. Now you have a headache for all night.
No, I'm just like, if I wear this for a week straight, a few hours a day, I won't even notice it. But I actually haven't even touched my Oculus in like a month.
Interesting.
Not because I haven't wanted to. I've just been busy. I was out for 10 days, out of state for 10 days. I have been back busy nonstop, holidays and all this stuff, and like so it's like that's the reason why I haven't touched it. But I can actually design things with my Oculus. It's pretty cool.
Dude, you literally just said the secret to success though. You said if I could do this for a couple hours a day every week, you know what I mean? Like if you could do anything a couple hours a day every week, it would change your life.
Well, I was thinking like muscles, like
dude.
Like I was like my skull will get used to it, like
muscle memory. You're absolutely right.
We adapt. That's what we're best at.
That's the secret to success, man. Put it on the calendar and do it.
Oh yeah, that's the truth, man. Well, shoot, man. We'll start wrapping this up. This has been a very good episode. We got a lot of things that we covered that I think could be helpful for people. A very good conversation, very good chemistry. So that's always helpful.
Absolutely.
and yeah, so we actually I think this is one of the longest episodes. One of them.
Sorry.
No. I wanted it to be. I'm actually aiming. If I can get it to go over an hour, I'm gonna let it be.
That way you can cut it down to an hour 50 minutes.
No, we don't cut. We don't cut nothing out.
Nice. Nice.
Like maybe like. There's been a couple of times where we had to cut some things, but we try not to. And that's just kind of how you should come into it, knowing that we're not going to cut it. I don't feel it's necessary to explain, although I did have someone, like, in the middle of their episode, they were like, oh, nothing gets cut?
Oh.
Like, what, you want me to do more work? but yeah.
No, I appreciate it, man. I appreciate the time. I know we've talked about this a couple of times, and it was just that authority. Should I go talk about, my success? Am I in the right space to do it?
Yeah, I was surprised when you told me that you didn't you weren't sure if you could be a guest.
Dude, and a lot of my closest friends and my wife, will get angry and say it to you. I consider humility one of my greatest attributes, and some people can see it as a flaw, and sometimes it has become a flaw because, number one, I don't need the glory. My glory goes to God. I am a believer, and I will talk to that anytime I feel ministry needs to happen. But if you really believe you have to learn to earn, you focus on the learning. The earning will come, and then
it's a side effect.
Exactly. If you become valuable, value comes. Now, for me, I had to really learn, and I had to seek coaching to do this. How do I convert this value into money? Because I love giving away information. You can go find it on the internet. I'll send you a link. But not everyone has mined data, created programs, and has it in a deliverable format. And that's valuable. You know what I mean? So that was definitely something that has shifted my perspective and how I can impact lives. Now I'm not just, talking to one person. Now I can create a program that is, first of all, this is a business podcast, so creating revenue in perpetuity, but also impacting someone's life 10 years from now, 5 years from now. Like I said, my mission is to inspire generations by leading people to be purposeful and healthy. So if I can do that with technology, with a phone call, with a text, with a note, I'm gonna do it.
No, for sure. Yeah, yeah, that's true though. I mean, like, sometimes when we know that we're giving value, or sometimes we don't even see the value. There's that, like.
Oh, I know this. So like, I should just give it away. So that that's a lesson in business. Because like I said, I'm not a businessman. I'm a business man. You know what I mean? So like, I had to make sure that I was checking my P's and Q's on what were my assets I was giving. I wasn't giving physical products, and my time has become more valuable, not just because I think that, but because, I have a little boy on the way now. Yeah. I'm married now. I've actually bought, sold, lost, traded, built businesses. So
the experience you have, I mean, even if you were having a kid soon, like, your time was already valuable.
I appreciate that, but even more so, man.
Yes.
Because we're so happy. May is going to be a good month for us. 2022 is going to be a great year. I'm excited to see what you do this year, man. You've got some great stuff in the works. I know that Lead's going to want to work with you for each one of our iterations. We're going to do 2 this year.
Okay.
So, you know what I mean?
Nice.
We hope to get up 25 students in each class. So,
okay.
I mean, that's another way impacting,
How many were in the last one?
We have 14.
Okay.
14 for the inaugural class. You know what I mean?
Well, if you need help with bringing people, I can.
Yeah, please. Yeah. And I'll do that now if you don't mind a quick plug. Pikes
Let's
Peak United Way. Amazing organization here in the community. They're doing some huge stuff in 2022. They're celebrating 100 years. I worked on the program, but I feel as if I'm part of that family. And their lead program, they just got a community impact center, so it's going to be a family success center in Southeast community. The lead program starts February 2nd this year. It goes through April 20th. So, this is one of those leadership programs where you're going over public speaking skills. Frank Sinclair was one of my instructors.
Yeah.
I love keeping the community involved. You go over leadership opportunities here in Colorado Springs, and then you get to network with some of those people who have done the leadership programs like Leadership Pikes Peak, the ELD program with El Pomar, Colorado Springs Rising Professionals. So you get to get ingrained in that community while learning some really cool skills at a nonprofit organization in your community. So we culminated the last lead class with a food distribution. So we took the students out and we distributed to over 260 families over 21,000 pounds of food as a group. You know what I mean? So really cool opportunity there at Pikes Peak United Way.
That's good, man.
Appreciate it. Yeah, man.
Well, sweet. Yeah, let's start wrapping this up.
Okay.
Well, I think there was one thing I wanted to say, but it left my mind. So
I get to rambling sometimes.
It'll circle back if it had enough weight,
Sure. Or we'll talk about it over lunch.
Yeah. Well, all right. This has been the COS Business Podcast here with Ernest Chamblee, and we'll see you guys on the next one.
See ya.